All right, folks, we've made it through the first two books of the Bible, but now it's time to roll up our sleeves because we have reached the book of Leviticus. Leviticus continues with the law that begins on Mount Sinai in Exodus chapter 19, and it will continue on until the next book, the book of Numbers, chapter 10, verse 10. So I promise you're in for a bit of tough sledding over these next several days while you're reading Leviticus, but don't give up. Now, we believe that Leviticus, interestingly enough, was compiled during the Babylonian exile after the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem, when the people were no longer in their land. It's curious that people would write about their rituals and their sacrifices and the roles of the priest when they are in exile, when they have no land or places to go to worship anymore. But it is in some ways an imaginative retelling of history as a way of providing hope that one day this way of life might happen again. It's also a way for the Israelites, when they're no longer in their land, to distinguish themselves as a unique community in the midst of the Babylonians. The book of Leviticus breaks down basically into two major sections. The first 16 chapters talk about the holiness of God. Then chapter 17 through 27 is what we call the holiness code. Here God says, "You will be holy as I, the Lord your God, am holy." So here we have instruction about how families should operate, what to do about aliens residing in your land, not aliens from outer space, foreigners. They talk about purity, and they talk about hospitality. Leviticus can seem so different from our lives today. So as you pay attention to the book, there's four themes I want you to think about that might help you, a modern person, enter into this incredibly strange world. The first is that the Israelites believe in Leviticus that God is greatly other. God is so distant from us. God is not our buddy. God is not our friend. God should be honored and revered. God can only be approached by the Israelites with rigorous and disciplined intentionality. God is other. Remember that as you read this book. Second, a lot of Leviticus deals with our bodies. You and I live in an age when we talk about our religion a lot as it speaks to our minds, what we believe, or what it speaks to our hearts, what we feel. We can often forget that God made us embodied. God gave us bodies. Our bodies are to be used to honor God. Leviticus is very clear that we honor God with our bodies. The third theme to pay attention to is this idea that some things are clean and other things are unclean. Now, go ahead and wipe from your mind thinking clean equals good and unclean equals evil. That's not the case. To be labeled unclean is simply to be considered abnormal for one reason or another. It's never permanent. There's a time that you're away, and then by some ritual act, usually just washing with water, the person is restored again. It's part of that body being holy. It is not a label for all time that one is clean and one is unclean. The fourth theme to pay attention to, and one that is also really distant from our lives, is the idea of animal sacrifice. It could seem to us that this seems cruel or unnecessary. But remember, the Israelites believe that God is entirely other from us. So for them, the sacrificial system was an act of God's grace. God is giving them mediated access to God through these rituals. God is not remaining beyond and outside of their lives. God is giving them a means to maintain a relationship. So keep going. Let's get through Leviticus and perhaps discover how we might, with our own bodies in our own time, honor the God who is other yet gracious.